Come along as I taxidermy this deer. I already set the antlers in the nose, so the first thing I'm going to do is scratch up the mannequin to allow the glue and the clay to stick to the mannequin. I took the antlers off for some reason, so I'm just going to screw them back on. Next, I'm going to add some ears and I'm going to sculpt them in with clay. Then I'm going to do the same thing with these glass eyes. And this is what the mannequin looks like after all the clay, and I added some more details and it's almost ready for the skin. In order to get the skin on the mannequin, I need to remove these antlers one more time, and I also need to remove the ears, so I'm using fishing line to cut them off. Now I need to put glue all over the mannequin to allow the skin to stick to the mannequin. And finally, I'm putting the deer hide on the mannequin. I start by slipping the skin over the head and start just pulling it and arranging it into place. I'm going to make some micro adjustments later, but first I'm going to set these antlers back on. Then I move on to the face, where I'm going to tuck and position the skin around the lips, eyes, and around the nose. I'm shoving plastic inside the nose, that way when that skin dries, all that skin stays in place. When I have that hide set where it needs to be, I'm going to staple the hide to the back of the mannequin. Then I'm going to cut off the excess hide and brush it out and give it a little trim so it just looks a little more clean. And so here's what the deer looks like at the end of today's work. But it's not done yet though. I have to let that skin dry for a couple weeks. But fast forward, and this is what the deer looks like after a couple weeks of drying, and it's ready for the finishing work. I'm just going to start by taking the plastic out of the nose and then kind of brushing them out to get that clay and glue or any other debris out of the hair. Next, I'm going to take some epoxy sculpt, and this is just a 2-part clay, and I'm going to use this to fill in some gaps. Anywhere where the skin meets up to a non-skin part, like inside the nose and around the eyes and inside the ears, the transition line is pretty obvious, like you can see here in the nose. So I'm going to take this sculpt and smooth it out. Honestly, I tried to show this part on camera, but it was just a little bit too difficult and the space was real tight, so I'll show you the results later. So now moving on to the eyes, I'm going to use this mold builder and I'm going to put it on the glass eyes as a mask, so when I paint around the eyes, I don't get paint on the eyes. This always looks so funny as it's drying, but here's what it looks like after it's dried, and you can see that skin around the eye is just kind of dead looking, and so we got to repaint it. I used an airbrush to paint the skin around the eyes, nose, and the ears, and here's what it looks like after it's painted, and I got to peel that mask off. And here is the final look I'm going for. You can see I painted the nose pad and glossed it up inside the nose. It's more of a smooth transition where I use that epoxy sculpt to fill in all the gaps. And here's the final look for the deer. I cleaned up around the eyes and I added a few more details. But this deer mount is all finished and he's ready to go home. So I called the customer to have him come pick him up, and he's ready to go. Thank you guys so much for watching.